I think it's safe to say that Wish will always hold the record for Disney movie repeating its own name the most number of times. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 60-second Disney animated feature film, 2023's musical fantasy, Wish. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Wish stars the vocal talents of Ariana DeBose, Chris Pine, and Alan Tudyk, and was directed by Chris Buck and Fawn Veerasunthorn. It tells the story of teenager Asha, who wishes on a star in order to save her community and their dreams. 100 years of anything is pretty amazing. So with 2023 marking the 100th anniversary of Disney as a studio, it provides us with the perfect opportunity to think back on Disney's films. That's 100 years of stories. 100 years of characters and songs and impact. There are probably very few people out there who have never watched a Disney movie before. Most of us get our movie watching start with Disney films. For me, it was The Lion King in theaters, but I also spent plenty of time watching those clamshell VHS tapes of all the older movies as well. So whether or not you still consider yourself to be a Disney fan, chances are good Disney was a part of your life at some point in these last 100 years. A part of hundreds of millions of people's lives. So it makes sense that Disney would want to commemorate that. Dig into the nostalgia and back catalog, show off and advertise a little bit, and try to create something representative of 100 years worth of output. And Wish is that commemorative result. It probably doesn't come as much of a surprise, but Wish is extraordinarily familiar. This works both for and against the film, but there's no doubt that this familiarity was intentional. It's part of the central conceit of the film, taking this overarching wishing idea that's been present across most Disney films and pulling in pieces from all of those movies to create something that's part origin, part tribute, and part movie of its own accord. It's an amalgamation, and it definitely feels like one. You're gonna recognize where all of the individual elements of the movie come from. And that's fine, it just makes this blended version feel a bit generic. That won't be much of an issue for somebody who hasn't seen or doesn't remember much from the other films, but for everybody else, this has a fairly bland story, padded with Easter eggs and references to nearly every Disney movie that came before. When we think about what makes the great Disney movies great, there are a few things that come to mind. Memorable characters, well-written and catchy songs, interesting stories with some sort of genuine message or emotional undercurrent. Although Wish pulls elements from films that possess all of these things, Wish itself is a bit of a mixed bag in all of these regards. I will say that having seen this movie once now, there are only 3 characters whose names I even remember. So not great on the memorable character front. Asha's okay, kind of an amalgamation character. Magnifico's alright, and is a decently strong villain. And then there's Valentino, the talking baby goat. He's the type of character I should find annoying, but surprisingly, he was one of my favorite aspects of the film, and had short and quippy enough dialogue that he remained entertaining throughout. Musically speaking, Wish was very underwhelming for me. I appreciated the hints of When You Wish Upon a Star sprinkled throughout the score, but the actual songs were just not doing it for me. They were performed well, but feel too modernly poppy for the story. I said it before, but there's this sort of blended genericism to this movie, and that applies to the songs as well. Everything is very anthemic and performative, but none of it really feels like it's specifically tied to this movie. Like, you could hear one of these songs on the radio and have no idea it was from a Disney movie. Great for song popularity, I guess, but that's not how Disney songs usually feel. Despite the story blandness, Wish does succeed at feeling like a Disney movie with its themes and takeaway message. It mixes things up by having very community-based elements, and has some thoughtful messages about the importance of wishes and hope. It's just too bad that it was all wrapped up in such a generically blended package. Wish is an odd mix of a movie. As a 100-year celebration of sorts, it tries to be both a throwback and something stylishly modern. That's a concept that could have worked if done right. The individual pieces and flavors could have complemented each other to create something new and satisfying. But instead, they were all just thrown into a blender and pureed into an okay but unremarkable concoction. The humor, the characters, the storyline, they're all stretched across this temporal dichotomy. Even the animation, with its unusual blend of watercolor 2D stylization and CG models, it's all this weird mix, but not really a bad one. It'll just be a nostalgia-tinged deja vu for any Disney fan. Maybe not the triumphant and creative 100-year commemoration we had hoped for, but Wish is still a decent and fairly fitting cap to the studio's first century. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one has gotta be the themes. They're not the most original, and are presented a little bluntly within the context of the story, but the takeaway messages here are fairly strong. There's a nice emphasis on community, and the film's central message regarding dreams is more profound than you might initially think, linking wishes with hope, goals, and a sense of self and purpose. The second pro is Valentino. I'm sure there are going to be people out there who adamantly disagree with me on this one, but this talking goat surprised me. Animal sidekicks are certainly nothing new in Disney movies, and he's exactly the type of character who would usually irritate me after a while, but I found him really entertaining. Between the amusingly deep voice and all of his little quips, he ended up being my favorite character in the movie. On the con side, the biggest issue is the generic story. I want to be clear that I don't think the story is bad, it's just unremarkable. It's a blended version of dozens of other Disney stories, so unsurprisingly, it's more than a little familiar. Familiarity isn't necessarily a bad thing within genres, and a fairy tale fantasy like this was bound to have a few noticeable similarities to other Wish-based stories, but there just really isn't much here story-wise. Con number two is the music. Just like with the first con, I don't think the music is bad. It's just underwhelmingly generic and incongruous with the fairy tale throwback stylings of the film. The singing's fine, but most of the songs are indistinguishable from modern pop songs. They're mostly inspirational anthemic songs, some of which are catchy, but they all lack the charm and writing that made the classic Disney songs classic. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Wish or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Wish 3 out of 5 paws. Although it will remind you of dozens of other Disney movies you'd probably rather be watching, Wish is a fine fairy tale throwback. It pulls ideas from 100 years worth of Disney movies, and has some lackluster songs, but the nice message and occasional, often nostalgic humor keep this wishing star from burning out. I would recommend Wish to fans of Disney fairy tales. To be completely honest, I don't think this is the kind of movie that'll end up being anybody's favorite. It's a mishmash amalgamation of dozens of other Disney films, but that does mean that there will likely be pieces here that you'll enjoy, even if the film as a whole doesn't end up joining the ranks of your favorite Disney movies. If you liked Wish, I would recommend Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This film shares a wishing star basis, but manages to tell an interesting and meaningful story, despite being the sequel to a spin-off. It also features some unique animation, mimicking a painted design using CG animation. If you liked the fairy tale story and want something that has some classic Disney magic to it, you should check out Peter Pan. Wish references and pulls from a lot of Disney movies, but this might just be the most referenced film, right down to Star essentially being a Tinkerbell stand-in. And if you just want to celebrate Disney's 100th anniversary with a big dose of nostalgia, you should watch Once Upon a Studio. It's a short film with a very simple premise: Mickey gathering every Disney character together for a commemorative group photo. But it's fun and interesting to see the blend of animation styles, as our favorite characters from the past 100 years interact with one another. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Wish? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite Disney movie from these first 100 years? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.